Okay, that's it. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes. You want to have any changes, additions?
I have a
Belinda.
question, please. When we were going through the NEPA process last meeting, I vocalized my statement as to my concern, how this is gonna affect this committee. So I didn't know why it wasn't in here, and I think it's pretty important to voice our opinion that we are concerned about this, that will stay in the process.
I didn't capture that.
No. What you put, and that's what I was asking Calista, because what you put at the end was Cliff shared his concern about the expedited time with public review of projects. And I asked her, I know Cliff kind of said something, but I don't know if it was Cliff and myself, since I said it way earlier. And then Jeff made us comment after that, because I was concerned about it, and then you said, you know, we get into that later, and then you gave this whole spiel, so I don't know if it's where it fits.
And then maybe Cliff brought it back up. I'm trying to remember how that.
Yeah.
But I think it was a 3-part.
Yeah.
They happen to have the written versions.
There you go, look at it. Do you have a tape from last week?
No, I don't. This is the first recording that I just have all my notes.
Okay,
What?
so do you see it?
I'm scanning real quick. I have. Did I get Kim's comment? Cause Kim's, she's concerned about the lack of requirement for public involvement.
Yeah, you got Ken.
You think it was before all of that conversation?
Yeah, it was at the beginning. When they started talking about it, and it was in the time frame of Kim, making her statement about the public. But I recall that Jeff graciously explained all that right there after I said something, so, he was trying to assure me or the committee.
That we will public meeting.
Yeah, right.
So I have you saying you were concerned about involvement of county government and NRAC. Right after the emergency action determination. Sorry, I just went over it. I will add it.
Okay. Thank you.
But that's where it goes. It goes in that section on the emergency action determination.
Right, because that, then Jeff came out and like I told you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
Have a motion to second to accept the minutes as amended. All in favor? Alyssa, Melinda, Frank, Lynn, aye. Unanimous. Okay, we'll go to the agency updates. We start with Mr. Mazel with Forest Service, with police.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everybody. And for those that I haven't met yet, there may be a few. Jeff Marzell, I'm the, I guess I can still say new forest supervisor. How long do I get to stay? I like new.
Maybe 20 years.
It's a long time. So I am the relatively new forest supervisor for the Ochoco National Forest and Crooked River National Grassland. So we have three parts to our presentation today. One is gonna be a fire update. Then we'll do our standard project update. And then we're gonna talk about the USDA reorganization plan that Tim requested we talk about. But we're gonna start with the fire update, and I brought Jeff Priest here today. He's our fire management officer of the Prairie Division, and he is in a much better position to share accurate information about fires than me, so I appreciate Jeff being here, and he'll take on the first part of the presentation today.
Okay, hi, I'm Jeff Priest. I've met many of you, but maybe not everybody. Just a quick recap of what happened over the whole summer. It was a busy year, but it was kind of a busy year like it was 25 years ago, where we got a lot of lightning. We got a little fires, but we got some rain with it, so we were very successful. We caught most of those fires. And we caught most of them small. We would get a pile of fires, catch them, check them, manage them for a few days, and have a little bit of a break, and then we'd be right back at it. From throughout this summer, I mean, large fires, we had one at Juniper Hills, which was actually on private, a threat to BLM. The Pine Fire in the Maoris, Boulder Fire that's just on the Prairie Division side, which is kind of the Ochoco, but it's also everything in between, because that's just how we do it in fire. Not a lot of really big ones, but at the same time, we did lots of assists to all of our partners across the greater Central Oregon area. We helped pretty much everybody, and they helped us. The big one right now is the March Creek Fire that's happening right now. Let's see, we got about 1,700 acres on that fire, 49% contained. The fire looks really good. It's not moving around. It hasn't moved around in days. It's mopped up probably 50 to 100 feet in around the perimeter, and actually looks good even beyond that. That fire is going to come back to the local unit on Friday after tomorrow.
Jeff, who currently has the fire?
Sorry, what was that?
Who currently has the fire?
Currently, there is a complex incident management team. Oregon Department of Forestry Team 2 is running that fire. They've done a fantastic job and been really good to work with. We'll get that fire back on Friday. There'll be a handful of resources, some crews, some engines, a few pieces of heavy equipment floating around out there doing some work. We will probably continue doing mop up and repair work on that fire for at least another couple of weeks, and then be patrolling it after that. It'll be a much ramped down, smaller organization than it is today. The story on that fire, it was a bad day. The weather forecast that day came out as very unstable, hot and dry, and it was very unstable, hot and dry. And that thing fired off fairly early in the day. We threw pretty much everything we had at it within the first hour, and then anything we had left within the next hour. Pulling resources in from all those people we were helping earlier in the year. They came and helped us. Almost had it a couple of times, and peak of the day, about 1,600, blew off the top of a ridge through some spots about a half a mile. At which point we just decided, hey, we gotta bring in some more stuff. We can't just manage the stuff we have here. Probably went higher than we really needed to by grabbing a complex incident management team, but really glad we did, because it allowed us to get more resources in, manage those resources, put the fire out before moving anymore.
Jeff, what started the fire, do you know?
It's under investigation. It is a human caused fire. It was not lightning. But it's under investigation. I know they are looking into it right now, and we can't really get too deep into it. I mean, they don't even tell me generally, because there'll be some sort of legal action potentially, or at least potential for legal action, so they can't give us all that information.
Thank you.
Right about day 2 of that fire, we also started taking significant lightning, significant rain, We had 16 fires in the last 6 days. All of them we caught pretty small. Oregon Department of Forestry also picked up at least 7 more. We're keeping track of their numbers, so I'm not exactly sure, but at least 7 more. Plus even more than that around the greater zone. It's been a really busy week for initial attack, but we've been pretty darn successful. Black Rock Fire that the BLM had got pretty big. It sounds like they've got a handle on that. Obviously outside of this county, but still, I think we all care. That's pretty much what I got. Any questions?
The planes that were coming in and they were loading in Ochipper Reservoir,
Mhm.
the water,
Yeah.
where did they come out of?
That's a great question because they don't usually live here. They're not usually stationed here. They ordered the smaller planes. They're called Firebosses. The smaller planes came out of Medford. That was a request from the air attack on scene. He was looking at it saying, this is a great tool for this mission. And I agree, it was a great tool. The larger ones, I think, came out of Washington. Buddy, look at John as I think they came out of Washington because that's usually where we have some, or possibly Montana, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
The large air tankers, which we're more used to seeing, they came out of, I think we got one from California and one from Utah, and they were already in the air flying and just like rerouted to us.
They were fantastic watching.
That was pretty impressive. I haven't seen a lot of them myself, other than up on the Columbia with the small ones.
Yeah, watching them drop and then coming back down and then watching them pick back up again. It was like, wow, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, very cool.
It's a lot of skill.
Wouldn't mind having a whole bunch of more of those floating around.
Do you think they get any fish when they do that?
We all talk about that. That bucket's too, right? I don't think so. But I wouldn't be too shocked if it happens. I mean, we found some fish out in the middle of the fire.
Seen them on the fire, you know where that's ready to come from.
Yeah. We're fifth up at fishing license.
But when we use helicopters like in lakes and rivers on the forest, the fish are filtered.
Sure about.
That's what resource advisors tell me.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Jeff.
anything else? I'll hang out for a bit until anything comes in.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update, Jeff. You did a much better job than I could have done. So I'm gonna continue with the fire theme for a second, and I'm gonna basically reflect on, the last 3 months. I've been here 3 months. I've had 4 large fires that I've been involved with, not all of them in Crook County, of course, but I was involved with the Cram Fire and I was involved with the Flat Fire. And that was a whole other thing, but that really impacted more of the Deschutes County, of course, than it did Crook County. But as an agency administrator, right, and a forest supervisor, and Tori knows this, and other agency administrators talk about this, values at risk, right? We talk a lot about values at risk. What are we talking about? Firefighter and public safety being number one, obviously. We talk about homes and property, critical infrastructure, natural resources values, and cultural values. Those are all really, really important, and we work really, really hard to protect those values, while at the same time meeting the objectives of putting the fire out as quickly as possible. But there's one other critical value at risk that I think is often overlooked, and that's our relationships with our communities during fires. And I've been doing this for a while, and I've worked in California and I've worked in New Mexico, and my experience is these fires and these experiences can either make a relationship between a land management agency and the community, or it can break a relationship. And I've seen both. But we want to avoid fire on the landscape as much as possible. But it's also my experience that having incidents like this on a landscape also create opportunities to build relationships, improve public trust in us, build credibility, and build relationships. You just heard what Jeff just blurted out, like, we're putting fires out, right? We're doing all those good things. And so, again, oftentimes, like I said, I can see where these fires create opportunities. And that's what we've been doing all summer. For example, I had the pleasure of touring the fire last week with with your representative, Vicky Reese Iverson. She came out on the fire. I spent a couple hours with her in the car tour on the fire. I'd never met her before. She was incredibly gracious. We had some really good conversations. We found a lot of alignment on lots of things beyond the fire, just more fire forest management, active management types of conversations. And we exchanged contact information, and it was a really good experience for me. And I committed to her that the Ojibwe National Forest is working really hard, right? And that's why I'm here right now, to be a good neighbor, community asset, and ensure that the work that we do on the Ojibwe reflects the values and interests of the communities that we serve, including Crook County. So all summer, we've been working with these incident management teams, and Isabella, our public affairs officer, is the lead for that for us, and she's done a fantastic job. And so prioritizing public information, getting it out accurately, timely, and spreading the message out both in old school ways, like with, you see the sandwich boards here in town for Marks Creek, so people can like go to the Rays and see an update on the fire. Or we have social media feeds for more savvy people who like to get their information that way. We have a hotline that you can call if you want some updates. And then, of course, we have community meetings, and we just had one last Friday here in Prineville, and I thought it went really, really well, and we had a lot of support there. My point is, having that public information for me is one of the highest priorities. And if you're not getting the information that you need, right, or you know that this community needs something else, you need to let us know, let Isabella know, let Jeff know, and we'll address it as soon as possible. And another point I want to make upon reflection, and Jeff just touched on this, again, I've been involved in these fires all summer, and I cannot believe the amount of support that we've received, and the amount of collaboration that goes on between the Deschutes National Forest, the Ojibwe National Forest, the Bureau of Land Management, the Oregon Department of Forestry, emergency response here in Crook County or in Jefferson County or where we were in Deschutes County. Everybody shows up, everybody works together and fights these fires, you know, shoulder to shoulder, and we speak with one voice. And it's not like that everywhere, I'm telling you. And so it's really impressive. You guys are really lucky that we have a fire response community like we do here in Central Oregon. And so that's it for fire updates. Is there any other questions about fires or what I just shared with you guys in terms of my reflections on the fire season so far?
How does your protocol change when you guys are out on a fire, like human caused fire, and now we have a lightning storm right over the top of where you're trying to fight fire?
How does it change the what exactly?
Your procedures, as far as nothing, you guys are just,
Human caused,
but I mean,
lightning,
as far as like getting your guys out of the way, if now all of a sudden that you're in a live lightning.
well, I mean, Jeff, I mean, if we have a fire, any kind, human caused or lightning caused fire that we're fighting, and there's a cell that comes over, you better believe there's a lot of discussion that's going around to ensure that folks have that awareness. We have an IMET incident meteorologist who's embedded with the team, providing hour by hour, minute by minute updates on what's going on with the weather, so the firefighters can be prepared for the possibility of outflow winds, which can be really dangerous. So there's constant monitoring and communicating going on the line with potential weather events that are impacting the fire and the firefighters. Jeff, did I get that right?
That's all correct. I think where your question might be going is, I have a fire and now I have all these other fires, and how do we send people to this one while this one's going on?
Well, it seems like a fire starts and you guys are running to it, but you know what you're running to, or we see lightning strike and fire starts and you guys are kind of going there after that. Now you guys are out there working a fire that's already started, but we've got a lightning storm coming in right above you.
Got it.
Go ahead.
We brought in a whole bunch of resources from outside the area to free up our local stuff to go do the initial attack. So the larger fire ended up being taken over initially by your local type 3 team and then a complex incident management team. They brought in crews and engines and equipment from all over really the country, mostly the state. And I mean, it starts close and it goes out depending on what they need. Those guys focused on the big fire, and we had a few of our people in there too, but we backed off, we focused on all the new fires. So all our local stuff focused on the new fires. But we still had that big fire there and it's like, well, where exactly does their sphere of influence end? And that's just a conversation between us. We stay in really good communication with them, both in the field and outside of the field. I mean, up at their camp every day, just checking in and making sure we're good and we're talking to each other. So we were up in the field, this last weekend, and ran into the team's personnel out there and we looked at fire, we said, no, this one goes to these people, they took it, no problem. So I think it's really just communication. It's the maintenance.
We was up there and I talked to, one of the guards there with the Ocho Ranger Station, she said there was a fire, a lightning started up by Walton Lake. And they said, I met stuff going up there to it.
Four-ish fires up kind of Walton Lake, if you look at Walton Lake's a big area, yeah. So they released 4 fires.
So you nailed them right fast.
Oh, yeah, we got all of those. There was one up on top of Round Mountain that got about 2 acres.
Oh, was it?
But we still got it.
Yeah,
It's looking good. Have people checking on it today.
good job.
And I think this conversation supports the decision to bring in the incident management team. Because having the team here really helped us concentrate on those initial attack fires. While the team was just continuing to fight the big fire, but the team also peeled off some resources to help us. The whole other conversation about, like how that all works, but I mean, there were enough resources here because the team was here to catch all the fires that were going on at the same time, and we had a lot going on at the same time.
And one other piece with that is, at some point, I'm gonna run out of fire engines to send. And that's where those relationships count. ODF covered fires on the forest. We did cover fires on state protection. We brought engines and crews in from the chutes, we share all of our stuff. And we move it around wherever the priority is.
It's huge.
This,
Yes,
you
sir.
guys, I don't know if it was on you or on private, but the small one the other night on Grizzly Mountain, just to the east of it, I think ODF
ODF got that.
pounced on that one.
Yeah.
There were pictures of that one posted on Facebook.
That camera. I have a story about that, but we can say that for another time.
I've never been in a place where we would just pound fires down to nothing. I mean, the amount of aircraft that we have available here in Central Oregon is unique. Having the Redmond Air Center, like I said, I've worked all over and you order aircraft and it's like, it's too late, right? Fire's already taken off, but here it seems like they come just in time. And it's super impressive and the cooperation, the collaboration is really impressive too, so feel lucky to be here.
I want to personally thank you and the whole group that's involved in saving the Ochakos. I mean, I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you.
All right. Ready to talk about some other stuff? Timber, active management? All right. Jeff, welcome to stay, man.
I wanna hear this.
So this Jeff Reese guy, no, just kidding. Very lucky to have Jeff. Okay, so updates, so just project updates. I think Isabella sent this out, so this is just a distillation of what she's already sent out, so I apologize if this is redundant for folks, but I just touched on some of the bigger ones. So a big thing we're working on right at this second, folks in the office working on it as we speak, is the Three Fires Restoration Initiative. It's in the planning stages, but we're making some really good progress. And that's a 15,000 acre project here where we're replanting native fire adapted species in those high mortality areas from the fires from last year. So we're trying to bring the forest back. We're trying to bring that timber base back where we can, when we had the Wiley Creek fires, Crazy Creek and Raw Ridge. So we're close to getting the NEPA done on that, and they'll be planting about 1,000 acres of trees in the fall, and then a couple of thousand acres of trees in the spring, and that'll go on and on over the next couple of years. The other project we're working on currently is the Lower Dura Restoration Project, and that's really about watershed health. So there's a lot of work going on there in Jackson and Deer Creek areas, with a big emphasis on improving grazing opportunities for our permittees. There's the North Fork Crook River Stream Restoration Project, where we're restoring 2 miles of creek in the North Fork of the Crooked River. It's heavily degraded. That project's been going on, and we just finished that work. And that's also about improving watershed health for grazing, downstream water quality and availability for agricultural purposes, municipal purposes, and fish, of course. So as far as specific timber projects, we're currently working on the longer stewardship agreement with the Oregon Wildlife Foundation. That's both commercial and non-commercial thinning to improve habitat and increase timber outputs to regional markets. Happy to report that we just sold the Coyote salvage timber sale. Maybe I reported this last time, I don't remember, but that's 2.3 million board feet. And so that got out. I know there's a lot of interest. I think I presented last week on the North Slope projects. To be honest, we haven't done a ton of work on that, but we are really beginning to gear up for the two big projects. That's the Trap Creek project on Lookout Mountain and the Mountain Creek project on Paulina Ranger District. So we're gonna get two very large projects. They're about 25 to 30,000 acres each, with a focus on commercial timber production, hazardous fuels production, and disease. We have a lot of trees up there with high mortality because of fungal diseases and insects. So there's gonna be a lot of emphasis on forest health as well. So we are really getting going on that. And I know there's interest in a field trip and maybe soon. And I promised that I would engage you guys, right? And I want to engage you guys early. There's nothing worse than like, here's our plan. What do you think? Much better if you guys come out, see what we're thinking about in these early stages. And so Isabella is our point of contact for putting together a field trip. But it'd be nice to get a field trip together this fall before the snow flies, because during the winter months, we'll be working on these proposed actions, and we plan to have a solid proposed action in March. So I think time is of the essence with the weather. You know, we are shifting to fall, winter. So I don't know who's organizing it within this organization, but please reach out to Isabella and we'll get some time and see what you guys are interested in seeing and get out there. Okay?
So specific to that question, the question really is, do you want a field trip? And if you do, are you committed to, is there a time that works for you, doesn't work, and what do you want to see? Do you want to see what burned last year and what's the impact of those fires? Or do you want to go explore these new project areas? What do you want to do?
I'd be interested in exploring our field trip to look at these two projects. I think that's important. Some dates that are important in Crook County. Deer season is from October 4 to October 15. First elk season, I don't have it on here. Second is November 8 to November 16. I don't have first
Yeah,
season
the
yet.
first disease would be the weekend before that.
Yeah. So it'd be November 1st through 4.
So could they go in turkey season and get turkeys?
You still have turkey problem?
Lynn, if we go to the north end of the Ochoco's, we're not going to address the turkey problem on your place.
What about,
There's a few miles between those two spots.
what about the turkey problem on Bear Creek from one end to the other?
I'll get one of my grandsons again. They didn't make it last year.
Okay.
Like there is interest. It's a matter of working out some dates and times.
Is anybody else interested in that?
Yeah, I am. on
That'd be great.
projects.
So does anybody have any other bad dates besides the hunting season dates? Day of the week that's better than not?
Wednesdays would be best.
I can tell you from the Forest Service, Mondays are the worst because we have a million meetings, but anytime after Mondays. Wednesdays works for us, we're pretty flexible, but Mondays are a little challenging because we like pretty bogged down in meetings and stuff. At the beginning of the week.
Okay. Isabella, I'll get a hold of you.
Thank you, guys. All right, well, that'll be fun. Okay, reorg. That's something that was asked of us to report out on. And so I apologize for my friends with the BLM. This has nothing to do with you. We are USDA, not DOI, but you guys went through your own reorg.
No.
Oh, well, 8 years ago, didn't you guys get? Your headquarters got moved to Colorado Springs or whatever, so anyway. So, okay, so USDA reorganization, so I'll just start at the beginning. we kind of saw this coming last year, and there was a lot, or earlier in the year, I should say. And there was a lot of discussion, and then finally on, July 24th, the USDA Secretary, Greg Rollins, issued the Department of Agriculture Reorganization Plan. It was a memo, with a focus on consolidating and optimizing function and improving effectiveness, accountability, and enhancing services. And I'm paraphrasing, did not want to read the whole memo to you guys, but that was the basic thrust of what the objectives of this reorganization are. The reorganization included 4 key pillars. 1, ensure the size of USDA's workforce aligns with financial resources and priorities. I can't read my own handwriting. Those reductions have been accomplished through already the reduction in workforce through the deferred resignation program and voluntary retirement. So we've lost about 15% of, well, I'm speaking USDA, but it's the same for the Forest Service. About, I don't know, Isabella, am I getting that right? About 15% of the workforce retired or left. So they've already seen those reductions already. And so the memo discusses that there's probably not going to be additional, what we call reductions in force, like perhaps you're seeing with other agencies, because they've already met their objectives for the reduced workforce. But there may be other opportunities for USDA employees to do early retirements once the reorganization becomes finalized. Second pillar is eliminating management layers and bureaucracy. The department will reduce or eliminate standalone regional offices. So USDA is a huge agency, right? We're talking specific to the Forest Service. If you want to talk about other stuff, I don't have as much information on that. But how this impacts the Forest Service, if you didn't know, we're Region 6, right? That's Washington and Oregon. Region 10 is Alaska. I used to work in Region 5, that's California. I just came from Region 3, that's New Mexico and Arizona, so forth and so on. So there are 9 regional offices currently in existence. The plan is for over the next year, those offices will be eliminated. The U.S. Forest Service will maintain reduced staff offices in Juneau, Alaska, and an Eastern Service Center in Athens, Georgia. So regional offices are going away. We'll have some diminished offices in Alaska and in Athens, Georgia. We'll also, the current standalone research stations, we have a number of them, will be consolidated into one single research station in Fort Collins, Colorado. So I don't know all the research. There's the Southwest Research Station. I think there's one in the Northern Rockies. There's some on the East Coast. All of those are being eliminated and consolidated into one research station in Fort Collins, but the Forest Service will maintain the Forest Products Lab and the Fire Sciences Lab. That's pillar number 2. Another pillar is bringing the USDA closer to its customers by relocating resources outside of the national capital region. And so that's what we just talked about. All those offices that are being closed, the regional offices, the research stations, we're all being relocated to 5 USDA hubs. They're national hubs. There's 5 of them. One's gonna be in Raleigh, North Carolina, Kansas City, Missouri, Indianapolis, Indiana, Fort Collins, Colorado, and Salt Lake City, Utah. 5 hubs. And so the regional offices do a lot of work for us. A lot of those functions that happen at the regional offices are going to be put into the hubs. These will be USDA hubs, so NRCS, Farm Bureau, all that stuff, and Forest Service. So some of the stuff that we depend on from our regional office will be, at least that's what they're suggesting, will be in the hubs. Additionally, the USDA will maintain 2 additional core admin support facilities. Of course, we have the big one in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and there's also another one in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Last pillar, and I'm almost done, and I'm not gonna get into this one because it's not really relevant to this conversation, but they'll be consolidating support functions at the WO level. So USDA has like dozens and dozens of like big functional areas. They're gonna be consolidating. I think it's like from like 14 down to 5 or something. If you really want that information, I can share it. And all of this is publicly available, by the way. I can send this memo to you. It's online. You can Google it, whatever. As far as implementation, so that letter came out, the memo, the 24th of July. It was a 30-day review and comment period that went out. That was extended another 30 days. So we're currently in the review process. That's for Congress, that's for the public, that's for anybody who wants to send comments in. You can do that, and that review period ends on September 30th. Now, let me just say this. That's all I really know. They're not sharing a lot of information. My regional forester, who I report to in Portland, doesn't really know what the ultimate outcome of this is going to be. This is not 100%. Perhaps what's going on with the comment period and Congress, we could see significant changes to this or not. I don't really know. I honestly don't. So I just want to be really clear about this. This is, all I know is pretty much from the memo and some of the internal conversations I've had with my leadership in the regional office, but this is pretty much all I know. Now, I will say this, we are having a lot of internal discussions. There's a lot of conversations happening. Like, we're trying to vision out, like in this new context, what the Forest Service is gonna look like. And so this is, I'm not really in these conversations, but this is the chief and the National Leadership Council. We do get some of this information. Here are some of the conversations that I'm hearing about. Again, this is just what I'm hearing, but there are conversations going around 3 primary objectives to the new Forest Service, if you will. One is we're probably looking at a flatter organization, right? We have a very hierarchical organization, right? With the regional offices and the WO. They want to flatten the organization out and put a lot more decision space at the unit level. That's me. Giving us more decision space at the forest level. And they're gonna, but that decision space is gonna be consistent across the whole organization. So it's not like I'm gonna have more discretion than, say, a forest supervisor in Montana, for instance. Admin, ER, HR, contracts, agreements, et cetera, are all gonna be decentralized. They're in the regional offices. They're either gonna go to the hubs, or we may see some of that capacity back at the unit level. It could be zoned. It could be like a Central Oregon grants and agreements that's gonna serve the Deschutes, the Ochoco, and the Fremont Wainema, for example, but I don't really know. And then there's a real emphasis on accountability, both for the outputs that we have and for conduct. So there's a real emphasis there. So those are the 3 things. And then lastly, then I'll be done and you can ask some questions. I've already mentioned this, the sort of a re-emphasis of what the priorities are. You hear this a lot. Forest Service priorities are, but not limited to, public safety and critical functions like fire suppression. We just talked about that. Timber and fuels, range management, access, talking about recreation and public access to our front-facing facilities, making sure that the Ochoco SO is open, that our offices and Magnuses are open. We want to keep all of our offices open so the public can interface with us. Improving the human environment and supporting rural prosperity. That was a lot. It's the best I have for you. This thing will be developing and evolving, and I will keep you guys updated as much as necessary. But we will be seeing some, regardless of how this thing turns out, there will be significant changes to our organization. And I'm gonna really go out on a limb here, but I don't think it's really gonna have a direct impact on the Ochoco National Forest. Other than what I just talked about, I think I'll still be here. I think the Ochoco National Forest is still gonna be here. But we'll see where it goes. Any questions about any of that?
I have a question or a comment and question. When you talk about the regional offices being closed and the 5 hubs being established. One, I have concern about no hub in the states that have the most federal land. I know that concern's been voiced by numerous organizations already, but I am concerned about that. And I pick up a hint that you, by your tone of voice, that there may be some delays in getting work accomplished when you have to send that work to the hubs, the work that you normally got done at the regional office. Do you see that as being a new challenge to meet timelines?
I don't really know yet.
Okay.
You know. it just really depends.
Yeah.
We'll kind of see how this thing plays out. So, and honestly, I'm not really in a position to make a sort of a values judgment on the ultimate like design here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, well, I think we're optimistic that our operations will continue and we'll have the support we need to meet the priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any sense of what supporting rural communities would entail?
Sure, I mean, it reflects those other priorities, providing for commercial timber to local timber markets, improving range management, so we have improved grazing on public lands, recreational opportunities and access that supports recreational opportunities in rural communities, improving watershed health and water supplies for municipal watersheds, farms, agriculture, ranches. So I think everything, we work and operate mostly in rural communities, so like almost everything we do, we'd like to think is supporting and enhancing rural prosperity.
Any sense of when it all is to be completed?
Said within a year,
A year,
Yeah.
okay.
though, I think it's probably gonna be like maybe at this time next year. Not a year from the July 24th memo,
Yeah.
because one thing they really are sensitive to like us battling fires all summer and that's why we haven't heard a lot about it. They don't want to distract us from our primary mission of public safety. So I think we'll go through another fire season next year, and then sometime next fall, I think we'll see this thing more solidified. But there'll be a lot of updates before then. I think hopefully, once the comment period's over, the contours of this thing will be a little bit more clear, and I'll share that with you folks. And it won't be like, this is all we know, and then I'll tell you about it next year. I think we're gonna see some things develop, right? Yeah, I think so.
And so you'll share those kind of incrementally.
Absolutely, I'll share as much as every month I'll give you an update if that's what you want.
Any more questions for,
I've got a question, it's a different item, but somewhere I read that they're flying airplanes counting the horses, is that existing? The wild horses?
Isabella, it hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened?
It hasn't happened. I believe there were plans to do that, later on in the fall, but I don't have any specifics on that at this time, but we can investigate that.
Yeah, you're right, we're supposed to do that. I kind of lost track of that, to be honest, and a little bit busy with other stuff, but let me look into that and we'll get back to you guys on that and see when that's scheduled. It is gonna happen this year.
So Frank, was your question specific to the big summit herd or to wild horse counts in
The
general?
wild horse area where there's 25,000 acres, it's got the wild horse.
The management area.
So the big summit.
Yeah.
Tori knows all about that, she can know.
I think the last count we seen was 135, wasn't it? Gail, was that?
It's actually 125, and we saw tracks of 5 others, and we were honest, and said we might have missed 5. So maximum 130.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems to be shrinking, not growing.
What
By
year
all
was that,
accounts.
Gil? What year was that, Gil?
2019.
All right.
any other questions?
I have a question. Who purchased your, going back, who purchased your Salmi sale, Jeff?
It was the Coyote one, yeah, that was it was a company on the west side. Yeah, we actually ended up repackaging that one. And it didn't go to anyone in Central Oregon. Yeah. Can get back to you on that, Mary. I don't remember the name of the company. But yeah, because there was a lot of duck fur in it. Someone on the west side picked it up. It's probably someone you know.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, so I mean.
I'll let you know. I have your email. I have your email. I'll follow up with you, Mary.
Okay, thank you,
You're
Jeff.
welcome.
And we'll move to BLM, Amanda.
So Tori's gonna do the BLM.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tori Kurtz. I'm the Assistant Field Manager for the Deschutes Field Office in the Prineville District, and Amanda apologizes. She's currently doing the agency administration for the Black Rock fire. And so the Black Rock fire is on the Central Oregon field office. There's also the Bridge Creek fire, which is out of Prairie City, that touches the Central Oregon field office. So Central Oregon field office is busy with fire. Therefore, I have no updates for the Central Oregon field office. And so I have really brief updates for the Deschutes field office, and then I'm gonna hand it over to Jonna to talk about all other things fire and fuels related. So for the Deschutes field office, I just wanted to touch on, I noticed in your guys' meeting notes from last time that you guys talked about a couple things that I just wanted to give a little update on. One of those was the Brasada Ranch Trails project or inquiry. Since you guys had your last briefing, there was a meeting with Brasada Ranch and our recreation folks. There's an interest in getting a special recreation permit. As far as I know, there's not an application in yet, but there's an interest in getting some sort of horse rides out of Brasada Ranch, their arena, onto the BLM and near the district, the Central Oregon Irrigation District, the canal that they have there. So we'll be working through that process. And then the other update I have from your guys' last meeting, the Flat Rock Road. We worked with the county, and then we also worked with some of our lands staff at the state office level. And we figured out a way that we can kind of keep things moving forward and not need the engineering drawings until we've got that grant issued to them. So we'll have a stipulation in there that requires those engineering grant drawings once we get the grant issued and once they're ready to construct. So, and we've been talking with their representative at the Flat Rock District, so. Those are the two updates that I had. What questions do you guys have for me?
So I did query you guys the other day about Pacific Power's new transmission line.
Yeah.
And I know there's no application yet
Correct.
for you to comment on or begin review, but.
Yeah.
It was shared in a public meeting by Pacific Power a week ago that probably BLM, of course, they didn't say Klamath or Prineville,
Yeah.
would play the lead agency role in the NEPA part of that process.
Yeah, we had a meeting with them before they engaged the public, so this was pre-April. April was kind of the time that they did a bunch of public meetings. And at that time, we talked to them about potentially the BLM being the lead agent, but depending on the routes that they selected, we'd probably want to look at public land management and who is the priority public land agency and look to them to be that lead. So that's kind of how we're going to determine the lead on that. If you guys went to the Pal Butte update, and I know you talked about that one, Tim, the substation location is kind of a big thing for them to be able to figure out their routes. That substation location, they were considering Redmond, now they may be considering a different location, therefore their routes may be delayed. But like Tim said, we have no application, we're not doing anything but just listening at this time.
Anyone have any other questions for Cory? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we have Chris here for.
Hold it, wait for Jonah.
Oh, okay.
Part two.
Part two.
Yeah, part two after all about it.
I'm Jonna Ensley. I'm the Fuels Program Lead for the Prineville District, BLM. We wanted to come here and chat about a new program that we've stood up for fuels or hazardous fuels mitigation. And this is going to be across Central Oregon on BLM lands. But wanted to bring it up to you folks to help disseminate this information, and you can tell us where you see this going specific to Crook County. So we opened up what we're calling the Prineville District Bureau of Land Management Hazardous Fuels Removal Application. It's kind of like the firewood permits that we provide to just the general public, but we're trying to target private landowners whose properties abut BLM land to try to increase their defensible space or create a fuel break around their private property. So we are allowing those homeowners or property owners to go 150 feet off of their property line and do things like limbing trees up to 6 feet, taking any trees, shrubs, etc. That is 6 inches or less diameter at stem height. And trying to increase mowing if they're invasive fuels, excuse me, next to people's homes. And so I'll pass around just the applications, the physical applications. There's also a QR code that people can scan to do this online. And we encourage folks either to come to the Prineville District Office in person to work with us to work through this application. We can answer any questions. And then the end result is you get a piece of paper, a permit in hand that allows you to do this work. In between the application process and when we hand you that permit, our fields program will be taking a look at, are there any specific management allocations on BLM lands that we're not able to allow this permit to happen? So we do ask that there's about a 30-day grace period for us to do that work and to do the research we need to make sure that we're not hurting any critical values or resources. Are there any questions about this? I'll also add before I take questions. We had targeted this program for homeowners associations initially, and we specifically targeted the West Powell Butte Estates to do this work because they showed a great interest in doing it. And it's easier to work with a single entity like an HOA than to do a single permit per property owner. However, after the Highland Fire went through Juniper Canyon, we decided to open this up. We felt that we couldn't just keep it contained, and really it's a fledgling of a product. We wanted some time to work through the kinks, but with everything going on and people wanting to do the work right now and motivated to do so after this fire season, we're disseminating it and we're gonna work out the kinks as we go. So please allow some grace in that respect as well. But with that, I'll take any questions.
So you can't cut a tree bigger than 6 inches as far as falling it?
Correct.
Okay. Cause there's a lot of trees that is bigger than that.
Correct. You can limb those trees up to 6 feet to try to mitigate those ladder fuels.
So if you have a fire coming through the top of the trees, then it's still gonna go
If it's a even age stand of a lot of big trees, then
then, yeah.
it doesn't exactly
The
mitigate
way we
that.
do on our private property, we cut it all.
Correct, yeah. Unfortunately, this was the only way that we were able to massage this permit program without having to utilize NEPA,
Yeah.
which would have taken years. So this is kind of our compromise. We're trying to keep the action items outside of the realm of NEPA. So, we can let people do the work and not have years and years tied up in trying to make this.
Well, the other thing is, we probably couldn't afford to do it, cause it's $10 for 200 pounds, and we cut the big trees, we probably couldn't afford
It's probably,
it.
Is this primarily going to affect homeowners of we actually surround a butte that has, it's not a butte, it's a small butte, that's BLM, and it's covered with junipers.
so it's just 150 feet off of your private property line. I'm not sure how far that would get you at the butte, but yeah, it would just create that rind along your property and not extend from there unless we have plans to go in with a longer NEPA project.
So were you at the county meeting a couple of weeks ago when your cohort
Rob, yeah,
shared this and the public and some of the public reaction that?
yes, so my counterpart, Rob Four, was there sharing this program, and he did let me know what the concerns with that group were. It seems the price tag on it, a $10 fee to cut 200 pounds didn't sit well with people. If we could make this program free, we would, but unfortunately, we tie it to our firewood authority, which has a price tag associated, and that's with all the administrative work that goes into creating the permit. So that's unfortunately the reality. Hopefully $10 isn't too much for people to bite off, but I do see the concern of, I am paying money to do this work myself. But like I said, this is the compromise that the BLM is able to make right now, without having to go through a long NEPA process and to allow people to do the work that they're motivated to do right now.
Yeah, so I think the concern wasn't so much the $10 for the permit.
Okay.
It was questions about the 200 pounds, who's going to come out and sort of,
Weigh.
police how much is actually treated. How are you gonna weigh all the material? Might that be on the, let's go to the extreme, is it a wet weight or a dry weight? The idea, you mentioned it, also earlier, more advantageous if it is a homeowners association, for the homeowners to apply for a single permit, or for each individual homeowner within the HOA to apply. So there was sort of some of that logistical questioning. There was the size of the tree, nothing mentioned about tree density. That might address some of the crown fire concerns, just because you're trying to break the fuel line. So if you can do a little thinning, is that a different way around? Again, if it's your firewood permit, we're cutting trees and firewood bigger than 6 inches. There's a size limit, I think, of 21 inches or 18 on the upper side. So would that make more sense to think of a thinning maximum size limitation as opposed to a minimum size, no thinning kind of a rule?
Those types of details are things that we can continue to work out. Those are the types of kinks that I think that we're gonna work out as a district. The first part of that, and remind me your first point. The people.
Oh, I don't remember my first one. I rambled too
Oh,
long,
I
too
had something
much.
to say about it though.
Might have been who's gonna police the 200 pounds?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the
that's
200 pounds went straight back to the firewood. It's within our system, our online system that we put in firewood permits. We're allowed to provide these permits up to 200 pounds for $10, and then past that, I think it says 10 cents per pound. That's just what's within the system right now, so that's what we have to work with. Nobody is gonna go out to your property, or adjacent to your property and weigh this material. I think we're working with an honor system there.
That's kind of how Rob answered the question.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're consistent on that front. I will also add, if it wasn't clear from the application, the material that you cut off on the BLM side has to be removed from the site. Either distributed on your property, or burned on your property, or hauled off site. It cannot be burned on BLM land.
The other point that Rob made is perhaps particularly for the Juniper Canyon folks is he emphasized a lot of the historical work you guys have done on lands that you administer up there, some thinning, some other juniper treatments, that kind of stuff, and that others are planned and just haven't yet got implemented yet. So the only thing I might suggest there is that as you identify those HOAs up there and just have a constant communication with them about your future project loads that might sort of help them understand what you guys are up to, and that maybe make this permit cost less of an issue. And
Yep, we can continue to do that.
So if a landowner would get a firewood permit, then they can cut those juniper up to 21 inches.
So
Within the 150 feet.
Tori and
correct?
I chatted about that. As it stands on the Deschutes field office side, firewood permits can only be utilized in specific units that have been delineated by our forester. Central Oregon field office, I won't call it a free-for-all, but you can go anywhere on the Central Oregon field office BLM lands and cut firewood. There is talk of opening up the Deschutes field office side to be like the COFO side, but as it stands, you can only cut in the unit. So if your property is within a unit, yes,
And that comes out of the Upper Deschutes Resource Plan.
it's free.
Which was an amendment to the Brothers Lapine.
It was not an amendment, I guess you could look at it as an amendment. Because it covered that, but it covered further areas. In addition to, I guess, that.
I proposed this to Ron Wyden, but back when I was a kid, 6 years old, where the Crooked River Dam is, they had some CCC camps there. And Roosevelt was the president, and he would take all these people that wanted to lay along the street and do not work and do whatnot. They took them out and put them in the CCC camps, and they had them do all this work that we're talking about.
Yep.
So I proposed that to Ron Wyden, and he.
He ran from you, didn't he?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we can, go to Chris,
Yes.
Oregon Parks update.
Well, I haven't been here in a bit, so my apology for my absence, but, we've been pretty busy with things. And I knew that there'd be things that would be asked, I didn't have answers to, I do now. So I'll hit the hot topic one, which is the resort property. OPRD, I'm sure most of you know, OPRD is walking away from that property. We do not have the financial support, at our headquarters level to be able to put that sort of money into that property. And so, it will go back to Bureau of Reclamation. It'll be their responsibility solely as far as what they plan on doing with it at this time. That doesn't mean that we might come back into the picture down the road if they have a better plan of what they want to do as far as facilities, that sort of stuff, but right now, we're in a kind of a crucial transition time with our financial resources. And so because of that, you know, our costs are doing this, our revenue is doing this, and we can't let them merge. So we've got to create a little bit of a buffer. So you know, putting millions of dollars into property that we don't own was a difficult pill for our agency to swallow at that point. So that's, okay, ripped off the Band-Aid with that one, ripped off the scab with that one. So does anybody have any questions with that?
Well, it's tied to that. Whatever happened to the Portland State survey that you guys, I think, paid for? And
We did. So, I mean, we have all the information, we evaluated it. It was great information that people gave us as feedback as far as, you know, online, in person, all of that. It was much appreciated for people to take the time and effort into that. And what we got from is, you know, we got what the expectation was from local entities as well as just local individuals. And we can't bring that product to come to life at this time. And with Bureau of Reclamation, with it being federal and with their purse strings being a little in flux as well. And not knowing where all the things are gonna land with that, like when people are leaving positions there with our local division, some of those positions are not being filled. And they're gonna be more spread out. So much of what we were hearing earlier, where you're gonna have to go a lot further maybe to get a archaeologist, for instance. They're not gonna have necessarily local, you might have to grab somebody from Tacoma. So that slows things down a little bit. Any other questions with the roofs or the property? Okay. So we've been continuing with the projects. I think when I left you all last time, I can't remember if I had told you that we had completed our thinning up there at Jasper Point Campground. So that thinning has been completed as far as the campground proper. There is still additional thinning that needs to be done near the day use areas. That is not slated for the current NEPA that we are in. We're gonna focus going back over to Prineville and doing some of the thinning and rehabbing that needs to be done over there. So thinning of trees, also creating a more drought tolerant landscape in areas where it doesn't necessarily make sense for us to be watering as much. So trying to be good stewards of the resources that we have available to us. And in this case, you know, trees are one resource we have, even if they're juniper, they're still a resource. And then of course the water. So we're trying to be a little bit better about that. We did finally, our final take from Jasper Point was 80 trees that we ended up removing out of that campground area specifically. And it did open it up a lot. So if there was a fire to ever come into that area, it'd be very difficult for it to hop around within that campground. So it helps protect the infrastructure and visitors for us to be able to get people out if something was moving fast. It would gain us some time. So yeah, that being said, we're gonna continue moving on with removing of dead trees, limbing and thinning around the main camp and private camp. So and the drought tolerant landscaping, that's all part of a NEPA that we have submitted, as well as additional accessibility that we're looking at trying to do around just the main park. We're doing just a bigger one, so we actually put in for a 10-year NEPA and still waiting to hear back. We got approval on some elements of it, but because there was a shakeup going on, I submitted it in December, and I don't have final on it yet. So it is being evaluated, but I think it's gonna take a little more time since the archaeologist that started working with it, she retired. And so now we have to kind of work with the archaeologist out of Tacoma. So stay tuned on that one. But we keep on asking for additional approvals, like, well, can we do this? Can we do that? Like, is that more likely gonna be just a categorical exclusion? Or will it need to go through like the full in-depth NEPA process? So we're trying to keep pushing to try to get answers. So we can get stuff done and, you know, again, when we have drought situations, that it is less felt by visitors. Because some of those areas will just carry on and not be affected if we can't, or whatever, if we can't hear you. Because when the water got down really low, we couldn't even put our foot down in the reservoir. So. Good news, we already broke ground and we've been building a cabin at Jasper Point Campground that's accessible. That was kind of a requirement. Anytime you have a cabin that is not accessible or an amenity that is not accessible, that you must have an equal that is accessible. And so in our case, the Jasper Point campground needed an accessible cabin. So it has foundation down, it walls up, roof on, siding is on the exterior is 99% completed, and interior is about 10% complete. Unfortunately, our contractor contracted COVID, and so now he's working a little slower than he could before. And so it's a lot behind schedule. We were really hoping it would be done by the end of June. Subcontractors and contractors relationships were strained. Challenges, emergency projects would work up the chain and somehow bump ahead of our project. So we started putting down some hard deadlines that, hey, we've given you a lot of grace. Now we need the project finished. So that's kind of where we're at now. And God, do I want to talk on that? I won't. I'll just see if anybody else has any questions. So are there any questions that you have for me that I haven't brought up, answered, about anything having to do with parks or the properties that we manage around the reservoir?
Yes, you mentioned the cabin, so the cabin is for what purpose?
Well, overnight camping.
So people can actually stay in it.
Yes, yeah, and so, and it's to a new standard, so it used to be that you had to have like 60 inches for a turnaround radius or diameter, I guess, for a wheelchair. And that's been bumped to 67 inches. So that bumps out the size of the cabin a little bit bigger. It's gonna be really nice when it's done. It's all like tongue and groove siding. It looks really nice. It's gonna be stained. I'm really looking forward to it being completed. It's gonna be well insulated. Long-term plan of it is if we can upgrade some of our exterior infrastructure in that campground a little bit to be able to have those cabins at Jasper actually be year-round, reservable. Again, coming back to kind of revenue sources and everything, how do you make more revenue when you can't necessarily build new infrastructure everywhere? You have to increase the availability of accessibility for things. And in our case, it's making things open longer. So Jasper Point Campground right now, we've already kind of extended the season. So Jasper Point won't close until the end of October now, instead of the end of September. And with that, the day use will also stay open, and the bathroom that's in the day use will also stay open. But at the end of October, it will close. So we try to bump that out. So next season, it'll open in April instead of May.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No?
Thank you for your
I think
time.
you're off the
Appreciate
hook.
it.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
We will move to good of the order on the agenda. Anybody have anything for good of the order?
Well, so far, we've kept all the pack rats out of our fire trucks,
Out of your what?
the fire trucks. We have 3 of them.
Yeah,
We check them every other day.
well, that's one way to keep them out.
So I will share that Steve and Lynn signed the bylaw updates. The county approved those, and I think 2 commissioners, I don't think one was gone the day it got approved, so their signature's not on it, but so those new adopted bylaws are in place, and the ones I sent you via email the other day are the bylaws now in place.
Anybody have anything else for good of the order? Any additional public comment? Well, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second. Moving second to adjourn, Lista, Linda,
Bye.
Frank, Lynn, Bill, unanimous, we're adjourned. Thank you. All the government agencies for participating.
Yeah. Doing the people today, right?
I guess so, yeah.
5 of you here short.
Mike, Vlad, okay? Everything okay with Mike?
Yeah, as far as I know, again, he did not, the only one I heard from was Cliff.
Is he on the fire?
Cliff is on the Marks Creek fire.
It's not like Mike's not gonna be here.